Hello, Dr. Bobbitt. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Glad to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to meet you. Heard a lot of great things. But for the people watching, mainly chiropractors who may not be familiar with you, how did you get started in chiropractic?
Wow, 25 years ago this month.
Oh, wow.
I this Here's the truth of the story. I wanted to be a medical doctor, was going to med school. I was working full time, already had a family at 18, and so I got laid off from my job
Mhm.
and I started cutting grass. And one of the grasses I was cutting was a chiropractor's grass, and I didn't know anything about chiropractic, but he had a big house, he had fancy cars, and I saw a doctor of chiropractic. I said, "What is a chiropractor?" And so he said, I researched it and looked at it, and then I said, "Hey, how much does a chiropractor make, like an average chiropractor?" And he said, "About 100. An average one would make." This was in 1994.
Okay.
He goes, "Oh, about 100 grand." And I said, "That's exactly what I want to make." And so that's the truth of that story. So I researched it. I went, and then what I realized was, hey, you know what? They had a school in Texas.
Okay.
I was familiar with. I lived in that Pasadena area. I didn't have to move my family to Shreveport to go to LSU.
Hmm.
I had a job lined up so I could work and then go to chiropractic school. And so I just picked it. I'd never been adjusted, even the moment I joined chiropractic school. I just wanted to be a doctor.
Awesome.
And so, of course, that story changed as time went.
Hey, a fellow alum. Hey, I graduated from Texas Chiropractic College as well. So cool. But what initially drew you to Concept Therapy and Concept Therapy Institute?
Let's go back to COVID for a minute.
Okay.
Now, COVID, our governor here in Texas said we weren't essential as chiropractors.
Mm.
And so we shut down our offices, laid everybody off. And then he came back later and said, "Oh, I made a mistake. You're essential." Well, I couldn't get anybody back because at that time they were drawing an appointment and they were protecting their family. So I had a couple of brave staff that said, "Hey, I'll come back." We shut the other practices down, and I started. I hadn't practiced in 8 years. I was managing practices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started practicing. I wasn't a fan of the high volume, but that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired. So I wanted something more. So then I took up some neuroscience. I said, "Oh, let me go get a master's in neuroscience. Maybe that's cool," because I liked psychology. I liked physiology. Took the master's, fell in love with it, wanted to find some other form of healing way to treat with chiropractic. Somehow through the way, I heard of this master healer, Dr. Pete Goldman.
Mm.
Zone technique. I said, "Well, let me learn." So I went to seminars, and I was like, "I want to be like this guy."
Mm-hmm.
And through the course of multiple seminars, he kept talking about Dr. Fleet. He kept on talking about concept therapy. So I'm not a dummy. If he's that awesome learning from that, I wanted to learn from that. So that's what I did. I researched and I found the Institute. And at that time, there wasn't a whole lot going on after COVID. And that's how I got started. It was thanks to him, and thanks to him teaching us about healing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get it from the source. So that's how I got it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in likewise as well too. I mean, I was came across actually a good friend of mine, Dr. Nathan, sent me a pamphlet in regards to the philosophies of suggestive healing or therapy. Yeah, suggestive therapy, and when I read that booklet, I was like, this is what I've been searching for, and then also too started learning with Dr. Pete, and then also went out to the source as well too. So now that you've fully vested now as a CTI Concept Therapy Institute teacher, and I always like to put people on the spot. So I mean, I don't like to put people on the spot, but I'm gonna have to put you on the spot in regards to for people that aren't super familiar with concept therapy, and Dr. Fleet, how would you try to explain its core philosophy and how it aligns with chiropractic principles?
All right. The way I look at it is, it's a philosophy of life.
Mm.
It's not a healing technique. It's the principles of how the universe operates.
Right.
And a lot of us have those. We learn it through our churches and we learn it through different, but the thing about this one was in all the studies that I've done, I've gotten pieces of the puzzle from many, many great mentors, but I kept searching and searching and searching, looking for answers, putting pieces together. Much like your story of how you kept looking for that. When I was introduced to concept therapy, there was a vibration when I took my first concept therapy course, and I'm truthful here, I'm not sure what I got out of the first course. I was hooked. And then of course, after studying, too many courses to tell you.
I can tell from all the books behind you.
And I'm just talking about the courses just at the Institute.
Right.
But the idea here was Dr. Fleet seemed to take the principles of life, the laws, the body, the mind, the soul, the universal laws, the natural laws, and put them all together and summarize them in a very concise way that's applicable to our everyday life, our finances, our social life, physical life, our mental life, our spiritual life. And then yet he put it in a way that could be applied to anybody, anywhere, at any time. And when I recognize that, because I have a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but I didn't have them all together in one spot. And concept therapy and conceptology seem to be a summary of all of that. So first, philosophy of life.
Right.
With the big idea of knowing thyself. And that's the problem I'm starting to notice in practice is we buy these, we learn these techniques, we have these consultants, and all of that gets us by for a few months.
Sure.
And then we run up against our own concept. And then we're almost back to where we started because we never got to the principle that we were looking for in the first place. So in summary, a philosophy of life, it's not just a healing technique, it's not just for chiropractors, but where chiropractors will benefit is some people call them limited beliefs. Dr. Fleet calls them concepts. Some people call them subconscious belief systems, limiting ideas. Whatever you want to call it, there are programs, subconscious thoughts that unless we change those, we're going to continue operating the same way, no matter what consultant, technique, philosophy we use. So in the chiropractic world, it's an out for us to finally identify the cause behind all the effects, if I can word it that way.
Yeah. I just like concept therapy for me was similar to the way that I first went into chiropractic school. I didn't really understand chiropractic. I've been adjusted before, but I was similar to you. When I enrolled in chiropractic school, I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to make more money. I wanted that stature. But then I left with a whole new philosophy of life, being able to apply it to everything. So whenever I found concept therapy and went into as much as the deep end as I went, I mean, I definitely have many, many more courses that I do want to take. But just even the first concept therapy course just blew my mind as well. So, for chiropractors that aren't really familiar with concept therapy, one of the key ideas that Dr. Fleet emphasizes is this mind-body connection, right? So, how, if a chiropractor were to take a course, like how does these types of life principles integrate into like patient care and in their everyday practice?
So let's look at this idea for a minute, since we're from a doctor level. Our psychology impacts our physiology. Now, as we study higher and higher levels, of course, as chiropractors, we start with spine. As you go higher, you realize it's the brain. Mm-hmm. The brain is dictating based on the sensory in, and then it has the motor out. But what's talking to the brain? What's the science higher than the brain? Well, it's thought. And so if as Dr. Fleet says in the Cause of Disease booklet that he got from Dr. D.D. Palmer, 80% mm-hmm. of all illnesses and sicknesses are minimally psychosomatic.
Right.
They're functional disorders, which are caused from essentially thought. And if 80% of diseases are psychosomatic and us chiropractors are treating the cause, we're correcting the cause, but we're not treating the thoughts behind the things, the thought that's regulating the autonomic system, that's changing how the hormones and the ratio of perceptions to the chemistry of the body. We're gonna use every technique in the world to try to fix this thing instead of understanding the principles behind it. So the benefit that we get is, first we learn how to reason, proper reason. Is this a thought, a trauma, a toxin? And then how do you go about treating that? And then how do you make a proper suggestion to allow it to stick? And how do you get your patient to act and change the motor function? It's not until you create a habit in the brain and the brain myelinates the cells, and then you get busy creating a habit. And one of my favorite quotes, Doc, is first you create the habit, and then the habit creates you. And so Dr. Fleet is trying to teach us that these thoughts do become things, and if it's not trauma, and if it's not a toxin, then it's got to be a thought that's the brain perceives as pain or pleasure, and then the physiology changes from there. But if you don't understand those principles, we're going to be chasing our tail.
You know, and so I know originally concept therapy, or even, you know, the different things that Dr. Fleet had found out for himself, he applying into practice and started helping a lot of people. And he started helping a lot of chiropractors first, and with this technique, if I understand, or this philosophy or this idea. And, you know, eventually it grew and grew and grew where, you know, it was also lay people becoming a part of that too. So I'm not for sure a lot of people out there understand the magnitude of who Dr. Fleet was. So is there anything that you could share a little bit about that? I mean, there's even an entire ranch out in San Antonio. If, you know, as soon as I found out there was a ranch, I was like, I have to go there.
It's a beautiful place. When you understand that Dr. Fleet was as normal as any as we are, and as human as any of us are, but he had an idea. He had a big idea. And he wanted to give it to everybody. He, of course, started with chiropractors because that's who had helped heal him. Right. And it made sense that the chiropractor had an innate ability. They were already geared for the purpose of healing. He just wanted them to get the idea behind it, the big idea. And then he also knew that if they didn't know themselves, they would keep butting up against their own limiting concepts, and they couldn't heal. That's why most of us struggle after any new technique. We get about 3 months in, it's magic, and then it stops.
Right.
And it's the same thing I ran into is, if you're not fortunate to have studied something so powerful as this work for so long, and not have a principle-based idea, you would do the same thing and you keep searching for another thing. But the power of what Dr. Fleet did was he took this and he said, hey, I want to apply this to everybody, and here's a way to do it. But it's through the principle of first knowing thyself. And he starts very simply. He goes, hey, if you don't have an idea, if you don't have an image of what it is you want to create or a problem you want to solve, how are you ever going to get it? Instead, we just look and follow everybody else and want what everybody else has. And right. one story, Doc, is when I told you about the chiropractor I was cutting his grass. He said, oh, he has a big house, a big car. What I didn't know is his wife was a commercial realtor, and that's really where the money came from.
Exactly right. Dual income, maybe no kids either. So you never know. You never know.
But to your question, when you understand not only the mind, the body, how they interrelate, and then how that interrelates with the people around you, and how to build relationships with others around you to help you accomplish those goals. And then you end up turning it from a selfishness to more of a universal. And that's the benefit of these 25 years is the law of rhythm changes here and there. But for me, it's been, let's say, about me and raising all the children. And then finally at a point in life with grandchildren where now I'm truly vested in wanting to help others. And so that's a great feeling. And that's what I feel Dr. Fleet had, this love of helping others and bringing a union to the community.
Right. And then after you first started studying zone healing, zone technique, and then started studying concept therapy. How did you first introduce it? I mean, because I think you said you went back into practice. So what happened after you got that? Like, okay, I want to do this. I want to start helping people in a different way. What did you incorporate into your own practice?
So right now, what we do is kind of neat. So of course, I use zone technique and whatever other technique I need to use. But I do every week. We host the Rays of the Dawn study group every Wednesday. We do 1 hour online or in person. But I present it from a doctor's standpoint. I present it from a chiropractic standpoint, something that inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
So I facilitate it and I teach the group and others contribute. But then I invite them. I say, hey, if you want to learn more about that, if you want to learn how to do this, why don't you come to this informational that we have explaining more of how to solve the problems you have in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea there is most of my patients, they say, well, I want some of that. I say, well, why don't you join me for this concept therapy course? It's a 3-day intensive that is the most comprehensive class you're going to get. And I guess based on my inspiration and what they get from me, they say, okay. So we've literally built this from a grassroots effort in the last few years. First, my staff, all on board.
Awesome.
Now, and then their friends and family, and then the patients and the patients' friends and family. And slowly over the last few years, we're creating a grassroots movement to help them solve the problems that they have in life. And it's kind of neat watching it. I imagine this is what happened with Dr. Fleet as you read the 50-year book, and as you read his biography, and as you read the book his son wrote about you see it happening in his life, and you hear the stories and the struggles. And I think that it feels like we're repeating that aspect, like the law of rhythm has come back and swung back this way. Mm-hmm. And it's swinging now this way, and it's prime and right for all of us.
All right. That's awesome. And you mentioned, teaching the concept therapy course. So what exactly is the concept therapy course for those that don't really understand?
Okay, so it's a logical course in reasoning. There's 20 chapters. We teach 21 to 23 hours. The first day is essentially the manifestation process, where what problem do you want to solve? What are you trying to create? And we use Dr. Fleet's principles of the creation of the universe and how the universe, how God, how innate created this by evolving consciousness through basically like the laws of attraction, the laws of organization. We have movement and adaptation, and then we look at reason, and then up to all the way to the laws of intuition. But we learn that process first. Then we get into the fourfold nature of man: body, mind, soul, spirit. Well, Dr. Fleet had to define those terms in a way that we all could agree. Everyone has a different definition. So this is what we're made up of. But then he takes it deeper. He goes into the personality. He says, essentially, we really are, and then he defines those, and I won't go into all the details of who we are and what we are, and then how does that create. And then we look at how the mind, or the activity of the cells in the brain, control the makeup of the body and the makeup of our faculties, the internal and external faculties. So he shows us that way. And then he takes the laws of the universe and says, oh, by the way, there's one great law. It's called God is, or energy is, but there's 7 subsidiary laws. And then he teaches you how to take those laws and apply them to life. So now you're not the victim of circumstance. You're not the victim of just chance. He says, no. Here's what you want to create. Here's how you create it. If you're not getting what you want, then go back to the law and find out what you missed.
Right.
And there's a lot more to it, but that's a big overview of the course. So what do you want in life? How do you get it? Who are you? What are you made of? And what are the laws that interact between that? And ultimately, at the end of that, you begin to understand a logical line of reasoning and how to know thyself.
Right.
And then the future works just expand on that.
And that's why, this is the secret sauce, in my opinion. And going back to what you had alluded before, when, a lot of chiropractors, they're searching for the next practice management group or the next technique or selling and closing patients and, all these different tools and tactics of how to enroll and get more people under chiropractic care. And I feel like if we can get out of our own way and really understand how life works and how the mind and the body work, then it doesn't matter what group you're in. It doesn't matter what technique you perform, as long as you understand the laws of the universe and how to bend it into your favor and be cause, rather than the effect. Then I think that's where I was really compelled to want to, continue my studies with concept therapy. So, and then as a teacher of CTI Concept Therapy Institute, what are some of your favorite or most common aha moments do students really have? Or, what are some things that you kind of remember, students kind of ranting and raving about?
One of the big ideas is changing our awareness. The thing that probably inspires me more than anything, that gets a tear in my eye, is watching a student or a patient get it. The aha, the epiphany, the moment that they're present and all polarities come together and they go, I see it. And the way they got it is they get the tear and they're speechless. And all they say, Dr. Tran, is thank you, I love you. Because they saw it. They had a moment of cosmic consciousness. They had a moment of, they had that special present moment. And it happens by them realizing something they didn't know before, or something that they thought was true, but now they, on their own reason, realize that, wait a minute, that's what I've been told. That's what I thought I believed. That's what they say. But I just realized through my own reason and logic that that's not it at all. And what I really love, we have a course, a phase 2 course, where we bring the unconscious conscious. And you get to see for the first time where you picked up the concept, where you picked up the fixed idea. And when you see that, it snaps and it's gone, and you no longer operate under that basis. So that's what gets me. This is a mission for us. As you already know, the Concept Therapy is a 501c3 not-for-profit teaching institution. And let me tell you, it ain't for profit. It has to be a mission. I feel like a missionary in the field because I'm inspired to teach somebody. And Dr. Fleet said there's no real healing without teaching.
Right.
So I study, learn, and then I present it. And I hope, I said that hope's is something that I learned that's moved me, that will move you. And then you will have a realization, and now you go handle your own. Because we don't teach you and tell you what to think and what to believe. We just teach you how to think.
Right.
So you're always in charge. And how cool is that, Doc, when you go, no, I can't tell you what to do and what you should do and what you need to do and what you have to do and what you must do. Those are imperatives that you're pulling from other people, trying to be like them. And so that's a long answer, but I get inspired by that.
No, that's amazing. No such thing as long answers. Like, and we like long form podcasts here, because at the end of the day, some people may not be able to reach you, or maybe too shy to reach out. So I think that's wonderful. So, and speaking of that, some shy chiropractors, maybe some chiropractic students watching, what advice would you give to newer chiropractors who may have heard of this technique, or may have heard of Dr. Fleet, or maybe have heard of concept therapy or zone? What would you suggest to them in those regards of kind of getting started and learning more about it?
Well, I've got two thoughts. I'll look at the path I had. I think what Dr. Pete Goldman has done has been absolutely amazing for the profession. I think that from a healing standpoint, he is on the right trajectory of bringing Dr. Fleet's work quickly, and on Monday morning you have some work.
Right.
I know the thing I would like to add to that, and this is not what he says, I'm teaching you how to be a great healer. He's very clear. You're not teaching a philosophy.
Right.
He has a philosophy and he's very good at it. But I think as people they get the basics of that if they could envelope that and surround that and foundationally support it with the principles that Dr. Fleet that he had to go through and that he had to work, not recreate what he did, but get the underlying principles, so that this isn't just about, see, their chiropractic isn't just about their practice. It's about their wife at home, their kids at home, their bills, their entire life that is impacting their practice. So if they want to understand themselves and apply a foundation that's strong to support their healing of patients, then obviously the only idea I know is in this umbrella is take a concept therapy course.
Mm-hmm.
And I will offer this, and later you can put my information wherever. This is, I told you, a mission for me. They can reach out to me, call me. I'm happy to help, but that's the idea from a chiropractic standpoint. You work your way up. And I know Dr. B did.
Mm-hmm.
He spent a long time of his life learning the principles and had great mentors.
Right.
And so we're trying to reestablish that connection for our future chiropractors. Otherwise, who's going to do it?
And I've seen some amazing pictures, maybe in the Rays of the Dawn Facebook group or somewhere else too, of a lot of students starting to take concept therapy at the ranch and stuff like that too. So I think that's amazing to see, and I don't know if students have different pricing, but I don't know. It's super affordable, and it's definitely something that you can just take a grad plus loan for. Just kidding.
You're right. There is no way, if people really understood what they were getting with this. I'm telling you, I think it may have changed a little bit, but for under $300 for 21 hours of philosophy of life and healing, plus the demonstrations we do after,
right?
Plus you get, this sounds a little bit like, but you get me. Now, in that environment, you get a chiropractor who's practicing, who's been there and is doing this, and can give you the ideas of what's next.
Right.
You just can't get that anywhere. Plus, even if you're not a student, there's no course in the world. I mean, what we pay for not only consultants monthly,
right,
that tell us what we already know.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it reminds me of like a personal trainers in the gym, because at the end of the day, like, how complicated is really working out? But you just really need somebody there to hold your hand and be accountable for it. DeMartini talks about how like, it depends who's more certain. If the teacher is more certain than you are, or the coach is more certain than you are, then yeah, they're gonna get the money. Like, whoever's more certain gets the money. So I mean, is that the same advice you would give for a chiropractor that's facing burnout as well too? Because I mean, I know that there's chiropractors that feel like they're plateauing and they're like, getting hammered by sales funnels and redirected Facebook ads and stuff like that, searching for something, so is that the similar type of suggestion that you would give a chiropractor that's, just feeling like he's against the wall right now and not knowing what to do next?
I'll give you two answers because you just jogged one for me. Since the bulk of this conversation has been about concept therapy and Dr. Fleet, it would make sense for me to say, just get to class. I've had two chiropractors, both have been in practice over 50 years, recently call me and say, hey, I've been in practice, I'm burnt out, I've got all the tools, I got all the gadgets, I've had all the guys. You know what do you say? You go, you know what I'm going to say, because you reached me on this platform. I said, get your butt to a class, because the answer for you is in the class, but it's not in a chiropractic technique. It's not in a chiropractic modality. It's not on another consultant. It's you.
Right.
Your whole life, you've been butting up against these factors. And this is when you brought up DeMartini. We need to do a whole nother 12 hours on that one, Doc. In fact, I just want to tell you this. Next week, I'm spending about 5 hours with him on the world.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
If you
So
want to know what the world is,
it's his luxury cruise liner that he lives on, right?
exactly. Yep.
Anyway, that's my other than concept therapy, that's my number one mentor. But he talks about values.
Right.
And one of the problems that we have is we're too busy comparing ourselves to others instead of looking at what we're called to do. And when you know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you quit comparing yourself to other people and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And what's helped me so much recently, because I've done all of that, is I'm a teacher. So what happens when I get burnt out? I find something inspiring that I want to learn, and then I teach it. I
Right.
still teach Sunday school every weekend and have for the last 17 years because I'm inspired by truth and principle in teaching and bringing something that's perceived as complicated and making it easy. And then when I look at those truths and then I look at these and I realize they're the same truth, I'm inspired because I've now taken science and theology and blended them together and unified that. And now I have a new level of understanding and a new way to communicate to the people I love. So if you're not inspired, either do the value determination process that the DeMartini Institute and find out what's your value and start living out your value in your practice.
Mm-hmm.
And you become, or quit thinking about yourself and stop helping other people.
Right.
And we say that, oh, I'm a chiropractor, I help people. No, it's still, it sounds tacky, but it's still from a selfish means. And you know that quote we all hear, when you start helping other people get what they want, you get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm finding that to become true. In some cases, it might not always be the most financially rewarding, but right now I'm after personal, spiritual, family, social reward. And that may swing back another way later, but right now that's where I'm at in life.
Right. Yep. And then, so say someone's still skeptical in regards to, committing to a weekend, flying out. And I highly suggest staying at the ranch. If you can swing it, fly out to San Antonio, stay there, just full immersion. I don't think I could ever watch something online, but they do have it online where you can stream it from home, so you don't have to travel. But just like Tony Robbins talks about, like just full immersion, you're locked in, you're loaded, and it's one thing just to gather information, but it's another thing to be close to the other people, because a lot of the learning, in my opinion, happens is between the sessions, and getting to break bread with everybody, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's not just a concept therapy institute, which makes it sound like very like going to school, but it's a community, and once you get in contact with the community, that's where even deeper learning happens, so but say if someone doesn't want to go to the course just yet, and they're just kind of coming across this. I know that you mentioned a book, Rise of the Dawn, but is that a good starting point for someone to purchase from the Concept Therapy Institute store online, or are there any booklets or other resources that you would recommend for someone wanting to get their dip their toe in?
Yeah, there is a limited amount of resources that someone can purchase before doing a concept therapy. And obvious, Rays of the Dawn is the starting point, because any lay person can do that, and it seems you can interpret any way you want, since it's not a religion, and it's simply laws of the body, mind, and soul, and you can get whatever you need to get out of them. The gradient is still it's a decent gradient. You want somebody to show you how to do that and guide you through that, but that gets you started. That's kind of the Rays of Dawn handles the animal nature. So if you're highly polar and highly emotional, it gives you some ground to start working. So would that if you had that book, would that ever lead you to concept therapy? Probably not, unless you had somebody that was referencing or guiding you that way. And of course, there's books, if you're inspired by biographies and chiropractic, you could read Where There's a Will, There's a Way. It's Dr. Fleet's biography. It's a beautiful story of how he got started and his illuminating event, and then his life and how he got started. And there's the 50 year book that is unbelievable if you're into history.
Oh yeah, 50-year book.
It shows his whole history of how he tried to give it back to all the students to take it. He says, "I've done it. Y'all take it," and nobody would take it. So he had to keep coming back in. There's that. There's Memories of My Father is another book that his son wrote. And of course, they had the old pamphlets they used to have available, the suggestive therapy pamphlet. That's no longer available for right now. That's one. But of course, you got The Cause of Disease, formulated after D.D. Palmer's work. There's a few things, but there really isn't another way to get fully immersed. But if they're not that way, then attend a Rays of Dawn, preferably by one of a chiropractor would be super great if you're interested in healing, obviously. And there's a few of us on the Concept Therapy Institute. There's a couple chiropractors on there that have Rays of the Dawn groups that are very intelligent and very successful in practice. And you never know who you're going to be inspired by, as you listen to their groups.
And then, so, and speaking of chiropractors and the chiropractic profession, how do you see the profession evolving over the next decade? And what role do you think concept therapy will play with that in the profession?
I've seen a switch. When I told you about how I got into chiropractic, I didn't have any philosophy. I worked full time, worked nights while I was going to school. So I just went in, got out. So I had very little philosophy. Plus TCC, we didn't really have much back then. And then at that time, Parker had a lot of philosophy
and seminars. And
now I just talked to one of my students today, one of the interns that I'm mentoring, and he said, yeah, they're moving towards a physical therapy model where most of their stuff is physical therapy based and not philosophy. And so if you ask me, where's the profession going? At least from my limited understanding, it's not going philosophy, it's going the opposite direction. So we're going to get lost in the mix with the doctors of physical therapy, the doctors of chiropractic, the massage. It's all the same thing. And we know what makes us different is the ability to adjust. But more than that, Dr. Fleet says it over and over again. The doctor of the future will understand how to help the body, the mind, and the soul, not just the physical, but the mental and the spiritual aspect. And we're missing that. So, I often think that I would love it if insurance would finally just do away with chiropractic and let us just all be cash-based so that everybody then could be on an equal playing ground and do what they want to do and not be victim of that. But I have a feeling that what it looks like now is chiropractors are coming out. They're very small shops. They're doing very little. And they don't understand the business, that it still is a business, and they get wrapped up and they never get valued for their worth. And then they go on and do second and third jobs. So that's my limited understanding of the profession. But when we start helping people and we start fixing things that no one else can fix, and we start educating people and teaching people how to help themselves, they will come to us like they used to come to us in the early days.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. The family doctor. Yep. So, in my last question for you tonight or today, whenever you're watching this. So what do you hope will be your legacy in the chiropractic profession and especially now through your work with concept therapy?
I don't think I've ever been asked that question. And when you ask that, I have these tears of there's a responsibility. I've had the blessings of running businesses and being a good chiropractor and being consulted and mentored. I've had beautiful mentors my whole life. I have this desire to be, I keep telling myself, the teacher of teachers, the doctor of doctors. I use the word mission, a mission field, a missionary, so to speak. And I don't want to go so far to say I want to be the next Dr. Fleet or even try to fill those shoes. But to grassroots effort, be that guy, that mentor, that the seed. And I love it because Dr. Fleet says in his essays and articles, and he says, and I think that's a great book, Essays and Articles, for those of you that want to not sure about this. He says he's content just to plant the seed, not necessarily to reap the harvest.
Mm.
I'm that place in my life as a grandfather, multiple grandchildren, that I think I would be fulfilled planting the seed. So people planted it in me. I want to plant it in others. And I right now want to be one of the catalysts that take this profession and inspire the profession to look and seek and understand and to know, and then use their gifts and talents and skills as they already have them, become aware of them and apply them to their practice in their unique way, and use it instead of trying to follow everybody else's system and become wealthy themselves physically, spiritually, and mentally. So I want to be known as that guy that helped plant a lot of seeds. Maybe it's the Johnny Appleseed, if you're familiar with that story. Maybe
Yes.
I'm the George Appleseed that helped assist these other pioneers that have assisted for all these years, and now it's my turn.
Yes, and I'm, it's like the J. Abraham quote where he says, if you believe what you're selling or what you're teaching so much that now, and you know that this can help people, now you have this moral and ethical responsibility to tell as many people as you can, and and that's why, I was inspired to reach out to you and talk to you and, to understand your story and to understand your passion and why, you want to tell as many people as possible. So, like Dr. Bobbitt said, reach out to him. I mean, that's how we got connected from social media. And, I've been following along with him, seeing all the amazing work he's doing, teaching courses. I'm going to get my butt to one again soon. So definitely reach out to Dr. Bobbitt. If you have any questions, if you need anything, definitely reach out to him. Thanks again for your time and looking forward to meeting you in person soon.
Yes. Thank you, Doc.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.